This is the What's Next podcast, Houston's #1 platform where I invite creators to share their journeys and give us a depiction of their visions. Most importantly, the last question I'll ask is, what's next? Episode 67, y'all. Episode 67. It's time. Walk with me. Let's go.
Yo, it feel like 95. Sachi on my body. Biggie, chicken, puffy, all that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies. And them valleys, no Pilates. More way, get you more wet. Nah, that's these.
I would like to make a few comments concerning the difference.
Listen. I played this song in episode number 66, Bloodshed. The song is still prevalent. It's 2 minutes. I want to listen to it. It's been on my mind lately, y'all. Minus the air horns, though.
Revolution. The objective of a revolution and the result of a revolution and the methods used in a revolution. May change words.
When it rains and pours, let me change the forecast, Lord. Give me the strength. Hurricanes are more. If hurricanes are all that remain in store for me, dang, I guess I'ma bang some more. Remember days of yore, disdain for the law, but shit changes never in vain. For moms to get sane. Pardon, I switch lanes for the sake of making sure my nephew live it up.
Come on.
I give a fuck if I acquire tuition. Niggas dying if they try my position. I envision benevolence for the hell of it. And miss malevolence for the smell of it. Do you know the set of
bloodshed?
Listen, I know I messed up, y'all.
Lost.
Eve got a crazy word scheme.
Was no negotiation. I'm telling you, you don't know what a revolution is.
I said minus the air horns. I'm sorry.
When you find out what it is, you'll get back in the alley. You'll get out of the way. You haven't got a revolution that doesn't involve bloodshed.
And you were afraid to bleed.
I'm no Fred Hampton Jr., but a Fred Hampton shooter would have been at my bed. I would have been clapped the Ruger. I ain't been lattice dude. I never crashed without the tool. A nigga did dirt for pushing up grass and petunias. Revolution revolves around execution. Not involved, gotta execute them. Can't resolve, so it's death they choosing. I can solve it. The solution is all about retribution. When the scourge of the just get just what they deserve, then justice is served, not destitution. Evolution prevails, the ills of what ails, the desolate set precedent.
Houston, Texas, welcome back to episode number 67 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary, Inc. Yeah, man. Heavy times we're in. Let me go ahead and get the episode started because I want to have your full attention. And yeah, I'm back to making a call this episode. I'm going to premiere, I'm going to bring Pierre back because we have some more discussing to do. But I wanted to get the perspective of an African-American woman that I know closely, who of course was on the podcast. So here we go.
Hello.
Kayvon.
What's good?
How you doing?
I can't complain. How are you?
I'm well. Welcome to episode number 67 of the What's Next podcast, a production of Still Visionary, Inc.
How we live?
Hey.
Did you laugh?
Let's get started with our social media handles so we don't disrupt the flow of the conversation when we get to that point.
Oh yeah, you can follow me at Lady K the Screenwriter. I rarely post, but I'm just being transparent. And then my other Instagram is at Kalaiah, so that's Kalaiah.
And you know what? When you get to that point where you get that blue check, you know you'll be using your real name. You'll be like some of these R&B sensations that use their real names on there, and you know they're the only one with that name, so they give them that blue check. I can't wait for that moment for you.
I'm telling you. How many followers you gotta get to get a blue check?
I don't know. But my name is John Ross Dike I, and you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at John Ross Dike and still _visionary. If you would, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like my fan page on Facebook, and visit my website at stillvisionary.com. In front of you, I have all my paraphernalia. You can shop at stillvisionary.com/apparel. Again, how are you doing amidst this time?
Man, I think every day I oscillate between anger and resolve and numbness. Yeah, I go back and forth between those, I think, 3 spaces every day.
Houston, Texas. Let me remind you that Miss Kalaiah Vaughn was on episode number 29 of my podcast last year in Los Angeles, California. And Kalaiah, it was my intent to call you when I was talking to Pierre on the phone. But I'll take the full blame for that because I wasn't as organized as I should have been. But, Houston, Texas, this is a podcast for the creatives, made by a creative, a mobile podcast for the creatives, made by a creative. And I am calling Kalaiah today because as a creative, I know that situations and experiences motivate us to do certain things and to walk a certain way, talk a certain way. So I want to get your insight as to the mind state of a creative, especially an African-American creative in Los Angeles in 2020. While these things are going on due to Los Angeles's history on riots, how is it affecting you as a creative, as a Black woman in the state of California now?
Yeah, no, great question. Ironically, one of my friends invited me out to protest today. And initially I was going to do it, but I was like, I really need to plan before I go protest because they out here with tear gas and rubber bullets. And, technically, per police training, rubber bullets are not supposed to be shot at people, right? Rubber bullets are supposed to be shot on the ground. And the idea is that the noise alone would make people disperse, which when done properly, it does. But these cops are full-fledged shooting rubber bullets at people. And that kind of changes everything because you can get a traumatic brain injury. It can crack your skull.
Yeah.
And so just little things like, do I wear my contacts or do I wear my glasses? Because they're pepper spraying people. So initially I was going to do it, but then I realized, you know what? I need to better plan my participation in the protest because I will say this, civil rights movement was successful to a large degree because everything was strategically planned. And so I feel like I can't go out there without a plan. And not to say I'm going to know, I have all the answers because I don't, but I do need to better plan my participation in protests because it's definitely coming. For sure. Because I said this week, I'm going to use this week to plan. And I have a friend in Dallas who's been protesting and I'm going to ask her for her, tips and tools, tips and tricks that she's done and that she's used. Yeah. But just little things like that, that make you think. And then the other thing is some of my friends protested and then logistics becomes a thing. Like, do I drive my car? So when the protest is going to start, but as a protest, you walk, right? So you're going to be far from your car at some point. So in the event they start off with the mace and the pepper spray and the rubber bullets and all, okay, that's fine. How do I get back to my car? Yeah. Then the other thing then becomes, some of my friends who were protesting were like, yeah, after the protest, like last week, they were unable to get an Uber, which struck me as odd because I have Ubered my life away here in Los Angeles from a range of obscure places. So I know Uber is definitely alive and well and flourishing financially here in LA. Yeah. So then it's like, so all of a sudden everybody's Uber app doesn't work. all of a sudden ain't nobody in Los Angeles need to make no extra money. Kalaiah. Oh, okay. So you just start to think about it. It's like, okay, so I know for me, I have to I'm going to have to use this week to strategically plan my participation in the protest. But I'm going to have to participate, because if not, anger is going to get the better of me. So it's in my best interest that I do protest, that I do participate. But I just want to plan it with safety in mind as much as possible.
So, remaining in the guidelines of what my podcast was originally created to do, what do you think that a creative should take, or what do you think that people should take from the creatives that are speaking about the murder of George Floyd, the protest, the peaceful protesting that's going on now, the riots and looting that has begun amidst the protesting? What do you think that people should take from our conversation in regards to that?
I think there are several things. I think that as an artist, what you create needs to be reflective of the times in which we live.
Okay.
You know, if I can loosely quote Nina Simone, because that was her philosophy, and I'm sure we've all seen it circulating on Tumblr, on Instagram, because that's one of her more popular quotes. Our art needs to reflect the times in which we live. It's critical.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say too is that for the consumers, you need to understand that for a lot of Black people, much of the art we have is rooted in pain. And so I think that this is why it's even more critical that we have Black people at the executive levels, that we have Black gatekeepers, because more of these stories need to be told in their fullness. Toni Morrison speaks about one of her favorite novels is Things Fall Apart. And she says she loved that novel so much because the author did not write it with the white gaze in mind. And she said oftentimes with Black performers and Black art, it's amazing, but you could tell they also made it with the white gaze in mind. How will white people view this? How will they digest it?
Yeah.
And I think it's critical now that as Black artists, we create what will make us feel free.
Yeah.
And I don't think it serves us to pander to white people and to create things that doesn't make them uncomfortable. Because if it causes them discomfort to see it, it probably causes us death to live it. So
yeah,
I know for me as a writer, you know, every script I've ever written, the cast is Black. It's predominantly Black.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very intentional.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the business of telling Black stories, you know, and I just think as creatives, we need to create what's gonna make us feel free.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is this too. We need to also hold ourselves accountable as creatives, because yes, systemic racism and institutionalized policies and procedures have helped to shackle Black people. We need to also hold ourselves accountable and admit that we haven't always used our platforms as well as we could have. We haven't done it as consistently as we could have. You know, and I get it. I understand being torn between saying what you feel and keeping the job. I understand, because I've been the only Black person at several places of employment, including where I currently am. So I wholeheartedly understand that. I just think that one thing Colin Kaepernick showed us, if nothing else, is that sometimes the money just isn't worth it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we need to just start having those conversations with ourselves and just start asking ourselves as creatives, you know, how are we going to use our platforms in such a way to help spark change?
Yeah.
You know, so those are just the things that have been running through my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm also, on a final note, I'm also very curious to see I hear all these networks like Paramount and Amazon and Netflix, and I hear them all, listen, your PR teams have put out a wonderful sentiment. How many Black executives are you going to hire going forward?
Yeah.
How, at Netflix, how many are you still just going to have that one Black gatekeeper that's pushing everything through?
Mm-hmm.
At these talent agencies, it's never more than 2 or 3 Black agents, right? So are you truly going to? You've been reactive, to this situation. Now, are you going to be proactive? And I think that's why I'm just reserving a lot of my commendation for these companies. I'm reserving it because that's your reaction. What does proactivity look like?
And speaking about being proactive, I just feel sometimes as African American creatives, we're even when we are cast, we have to take on certain roles because there's no diversity in the writing that is applicable to us. You know what I mean? So when I say that, when George Floyd passed, I remember, and it was a script. I think it was either one of the scripts that I sent you, maybe last year. So I don't think I sent you this one, but I was writing from the standpoint of the downward spiral that leads to the perception that the media and that white America has of that fallen Black soldier. If I can be, let me be specific. When Mike Brown was murdered, right? The difference between that situation and this situation with George Floyd is people are not allowing the narrative of George Floyd to go awry. People are not allowing that poison, like, oh, he was this or he was that, to influence how people feel about this specific situation. Like, people know, listen, no matter if he was this or that, you killed this man, right? And that shouldn't go unnoticed because of the fact that he may have been this in his life. And what I saw from that was that it doesn't matter who you are. If people love you, then they love you, good or bad. And that's what I've seen be so illuminating in this whole situation. During his funeral, his brothers, his nephews always highlighted the fact of how much of a leader he was. You know what I mean? So I think that the diversity that we can portray is sometimes skewed because of the fact of, there's not much that we can, or there's not many people that are, or there are not many people that are daring to put us in roles that don't have us in slavery or periodic pieces, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I also think, too, part of the reason why it's critical to have Black gatekeepers is because they understand that Black actors should be able to have a portfolio and a resume that doesn't include a slave role.
Yeah.
They understand. And to be clear, I have nothing against those pieces because some of my favorite films are rooted in slavery, right?
Mine too.
Listen, I love Glory. I think it's one of the best movies ever. I think Glory was an amazing film. I love Django Unchained. I think it was an amazing film. But it doesn't always work the same for white people. Yeah. There are lots of amazing white artists who've never had to play a segregationist, who've never had to play a slave master. So why is it necessary for me as a Black creative, as a Black artist, as that to be one of the things I check off? Oh, you played a hero? Cool. You played a noble person? Great. You played a character with little or no morals? Okay, cool. You played a slave? Okay. It's like why is that be part of my list?
Yeah.
And when you start looking at actors and actresses who haven't played those roles, it makes you wonder. The other thing I would say, too, is that the beauty of Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime is that they have created spaces where large amounts of Black creatives can gather and put out work. I think And that's cool too. I think the other larger question is that we need to start, it needs to be more. It can't just be Ava DuVernay and Issa Rae and Lena Waithe and Shonda Rhimes. It needs to be more. It can't just be Spike Lee and Denzel when he's not acting, and Robert Townsend listen, it can't, and Tyler Perry. It can't just be those 4 or 5. It can't just be literally a talented 10. Like, you probably got 10 heavy hitting Black producers, Black, directors in Hollywood. You probably got 10 that are heavy hitters.
Yeah.
It can't just be those 10. It needs to be more.
How do we break in?
I think one thing, listen, I think it's a lot of merit in what both Spike Lee and Tyler Perry have done, in the fact that they wrote and directed and produced their own films.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the beautiful part of Tyler Perry opening up their studio is that we no longer have to beg white people for a seat at the table, because he built a table for all of us.
Yeah.
So I think that is the beauty in all of that. I just think that Viola Davis hinted at this when she won her Oscar. She was like, there are not enough roles. So I think that as Black writers, we have to consistently keep telling these stories.
Yeah.
Because it needs to happen. It needs to happen.
Yeah. People keep highlighting social media and saying that normally when these heinous crimes occur, i.e., Breonna Taylor, rest in peace to that queen, i.e., Ahmaud Arbery, rest in peace to that king, if we had been able to see Trayvon Martin, it would have been different. Speaking on social media and how we were able to witness George Floyd in those moments, right? How do you feel that this situation is different from the other times that it has occurred, and we've had to hear it a month? Because I believe that the Ahmaud Arbery situation happened in February of this year, mm-hmm. right? And so how do you feel that it's different, and how do you feel that how do you feel that it's been different now versus those situations before?
This may come across as a little harsh, but people can't do anything else but protest now. Everything is closed.
Yeah.
There are no distractions, because in February, outside was still open in February.
So people could go outside and be distracted.
And here's the thing. We could be distracted, because as long as I'm going to my job and making this money and driving back to my suburb every day, I don't necessarily have to think about a lot of things that are going on. I can insulate myself from a lot of the maladies that happen in the real world.
Yeah.
But because of this coronavirus and quarantines, and even though states are slowly reopening, many people have become hermetic, and so they're still staying at home. People had an opportunity, people had time to really sit and think. And so I think it's a couple of things. People are financially strapped right now, right? Because many people have lost their jobs, or they've had to tighten up their spending or lessen their spending since coronavirus happened. You're home with your kids all day now in a way that people were not before. Many people are not working, so they're home all day in a way they were not before. So people have gone stir crazy. People are upset. People are angry. People are tired. People are already restless. So the unrest caused by these situations does not come as a surprise. I kid you not. When Ahmaud Arbery happened, I told my dad, I said, Daddy, you mark my word. If another one of those happens while we in quarantine, people gonna riot. And sure enough, George Floyd was assassinated by the police.
Yeah.
So people got up and they started rioting. And here's the thing too, now people have nothing to lose.
Why you say that?
Because I'm already off work.
Yeah.
What you gonna do? You gonna take my unemployment?
Yeah.
You understand? My business already haven't made no money since February. So quiet as it's kept, Louis Vuitton should be appreciative of that insurance claim they're going to be able to file for all the stuff that happened in Lenox Mall. You haven't made money since February.
That's a fact.
Come on.
That's a fact.
Let's call a cat a cat. Look, them purses and handbags and belts been sitting up there collecting dust since February.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
people didn't take their stimulus checks out there and go buy new Louis Vuitton bags. People were paying rent and groceries. You had a handful that's young and dumb and probably living at home with their parents that went out there and bought name brand things. But the majority of people, by and large, they did one of three things. They bought food, they bought groceries, or they put their money up. That's what they did. Or they paid rent.
Yeah.
And so you know, so I feel like this was the perfect storm. You know, people are angry. And then I will say this too. One thing I say, because you mentioned everybody seeing it, I'm gonna tell you what's starting to bother me though.
Yeah.
The amount of trauma porn that is persecuted against Black people and circulated about Black people, it's troubling to me.
When you say trauma porn, are you referring to the fact of what it's doing? Explain that. I don't understand what trauma porn means.
Yeah, so absolutely. So when you look at porn, so let's break it down. So when you look at the word trauma, right? Trauma means pain. It means pain. It means something that has adversely affected to who you are, right? It could be emotional trauma, physical trauma, sexual trauma. There are a variety of different types of trauma people can experience. But ultimately, trauma in and of itself, it stuns your emotions in such a way that you will never be the same because of what you have experienced.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
So then when you look at
I see where you're going with it. Keep going. I see where you're going with it.
When you look at porn in and of itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Porn one of the reasons why psychologists say porn is not meant to be consumed is because it desensitizes people, because it objectifies people just down to their sexuality, right? Just down to your sexual organs, your sexual performance. It objectifies you just down to those things. So when you put that together, you got trauma porn. We are being reduced to Black bodies on the street. Mm-hmm. We're being reduced to knees and necks. We're being reduced to bullet wounds and our flesh. But we're so much more than that. And it troubles me because you don't see trauma porn being released for all of the white people that die. You don't see that kind of trauma porn being circulated. You don't see those things happening.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. And so this trauma porn, the fact that we're consuming this, what does it say about us as a culture that we've become accustomed to watching Black people die on television in real life? What does that say about us as a culture? And then you're surprised when kids go shoot up schools. Why? You fed them trauma porn since they could begin to understand the television screen. Right? And so you sit here, and then I hate it because it's constantly being replayed and it's constantly being circulated. We know it took him 8 minutes and 46 seconds to die. Like, it's constantly being circulated. But meanwhile, crime scene photos of white people, you got to go to the dark nooks and crannies of the internet. It's hard to find a picture of Nicole Brown Simpson when she almost got decapitated in front of her house.
Yeah, that's a fact.
It's hard to find, you know what I'm saying, a picture of Gianni Versace. It's hard to find pictures of John Lennon from the Beatles when he got killed. Like, it's hard to find pictures of RFK after he was dead when he got shot at the rally. It's hard to find pictures of JFK with half his head blown off, because that's what happened when he got assassinated, right?
Yeah.
So why is it so hard to find those pictures of white people, but it's so very easy to find pictures? It's on YouTube, it's on Twitter, it's on Tumblr, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram. You can go anywhere and watch Black people die. And then you sit here and you got, watch this, because we've reduced it to trauma porn. And just like sexual porn, in real life, people want to act it out. So now what do you have? You got white people imitating what happened, making a mimicry of what happened, because we've reduced it down to porn. He's been reduced to a knee and a neck. So anytime you reduce something, that reductionist theory allows you to take the humanity out of it. And that bothers me that we sit here as a country and we watch trauma porn like that. I refuse to watch it because I watched when Alton Sterling got killed in front of the store for selling CDs. And then I backdoored and watched when Philando Castile got shot. And I watched them both, go into shock and shiver and shake and moan and die on camera. And I said, I can't do it no more. It's not good for my mental health.
Yeah.
I feel like those videos shouldn't be circulating like that. But then on the flip side, I understand, right? Because it was the pictures of rioting and looting and bombing that made Lyndon B. Johnson sign the civil rights movement. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't Dr. King and his peaceful nature. So, it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah. You said assassination and you repeated it in that last statement that you had. And when I think assassination, I think of the late great Malcolm X, the late great Martin Luther King Jr. Because George Floyd was assassinated, do you think that he will be immortalized like they were? Or are, rather?
Do I think what now?
That he will be immortalized. Yeah, I don't even know if that's a word, but do you think that his name and his legacy will be held in the likes of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X?
I think he's going to become, unfortunately, the Emmett Till. I think collectively, him, Trayvon Martin, and Philando Castile, and Breonna, what is her last name?
Taylor.
Thank you, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland. All of these people that have died at the hands of police brutality. I think collectively they have become our generation's Emmett Till, because they're the spark that's going to make us force this country to re-examine its use of police.
Okay, so you don't believe that because we were able to see George Floyd being murdered, that murder and that instance has any greater weight than the other situations that have happened in the last few months of this year. You don't think that will propel this particular situation to have him in the likes and the conversations of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and I'm only saying that because you used the word assassination, because that's what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be much more collective, because when you look at a Malcolm X or a Dr. King, it's very easy to make them mutually exclusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think this was it. Like, this was a straw that broke the people's back.
Yeah.
And I think collectively, all of these black bodies mounted up together is what people are angry about. We're still angry that Colin Kaepernick couldn't get an NFL deal.
Yeah, that's a fact.
We're still angry at how this president has disrespected Barack Obama in a way that no other sitting president has.
Yeah.
Disrespected a former president. We're angry at just all the things that we see, And so I think this is a straw that broke the camel's back. I think he will be. I think he's the Emmett Till of our generation. I think collectively they're all the Emmett Till of our generation, because they received a harsh punishment for crimes that people don't even think about. My friends and I, it's so funny. One of my dear friends was just here from college, and we worked at Armani Exchange together. And anyone who's ever worked retail, whether you worked at Target, the grocery store,
food,
a store in the mall, wherever,
mm-hmm.
we know the procedures for money. You have that money marker. You run the line through it. If it turns a certain color, you tell them you can't accept it, and you give them that money back. Mm-hmm. Now, if they make an issue out of it, they start trying to argue with you, berate you, be loud, you go get a manager. But by and large, I don't know anyone who's worked retail who has called the police. I've had people try to write bad checks. I didn't call the police. I just said, ma'am, I'm sorry, we can't accept this. The system was not allowing us to process your check. You may want to contact your financial institution. Oh, well, I know it's a good check. I said, look, I understand. And I want you to be able to get the merchandise, but we just can't do this at this time because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know, I've had people give money and the money seemed suspects, and we ran the mark. I said, I'm sorry, like something about this money, it's not allowing us to take it. So if you got it from your bank, go right back to your bank if you just made a withdrawal and ask them to give you a different, ask them to give you some singles, ask them to give you some tens and some fives and some 20s. Because this $100 bill, something about this money marker should start picking it up the right way. Or go deposit in your account and come right back. But none of us, we were all talking. None of us ever called the cops.
Yeah. Do you think we understand more, or why? And here's the thing: it seems like, my inner thoughts. And again, I think you mentioned something about narrative. No, you didn't. I've been trying to control the narrative of how I'm perceived with this situation going on, and it's been late at nights that I've been driving, and I'm just like, damn, man, it's just. It reminds me of I've recently been listening to a lot of Mobb Deep, and they had this record called Temperatures Rising, and I just feel like that song that they made in 1995 is prevalent, even though they were speaking about like hood politics, right? The temperature nowadays is rising because literally I've seen a lot of Instagram videos, and this one particular one I was watching today with my wife. She showed me police knocking over a 90-year-old lady, and the kid that her grandson that she was trying to protect ran a stop sign, and he sped home, got out on the ground, and he got on the floor, and he had his hands up, and he was like, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. And I'm just like, yo, the temperature's rising. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that type of action, people have no choice but to react like that now. You know what I'm saying? It's not people. We have no choice but to react like that right now because of what we see is going on, the trauma porn that you see is going on. Like we think, when we get pulled over, this might be my last. So if I can run and get to the crib so that people can see it, my mama can save me, I'm going to try to do that. And so, I'm sorry, what was I going? I'm sorry. What was I going? I lost my train of thought.
You were just saying how, the temperature's rising.
Yeah, the temperature is rising. So, oh, Jesus Christ. Well, I don't know where I was going with that, but I just feel like now, like I'm riding late at night, and I'm just like, man, I just, I hope that if I get pulled over, I'm clean. I know I'm clean, but I hope that I can just articulate myself so that they can see, listen, this is not a, this might be, he might be. I don't know. I'm just confused. I
think a lot of us are confused because
like it's hard. I think especially in Houston, it's hard not to feel like, damn, he may have crossed my path. I may have known him. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard because it's so close to home. A lot of times not so close to home. It is home. This is a guy from the city who, was changing his life in another city. And I can understand why Minneapolis is on fire. I can understand. Like not too long ago, maybe 3 years ago, another black soldier was murdered at the same way, and he was trying to explain himself. He was trying to say, look, here are my credentials. And, I don't know, man. I'm confused, to say the least.
I think we're all confused and conflicted. And then the other thing is, for some of us, we have been fortunate enough to continue working during this pandemic.
That's a fact.
And so now more than ever, it's even harder to check any anger, frustration you may feel as a black person. It's even harder to check at the door before you go into work now.
Why do you say that? Because we have to. Why do you say that?
Because white people can sit there and watch this trauma porn and sit at Starbucks and tell their friends, yeah, it's so sad, it's so bad, da 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 da.
I thought you were
and they
going to
can
go
go on to live in their lives because their kids are not afraid of the police. They're not afraid for their husbands, their fathers to get pulled over by the police. They're not afraid to get stopped by the cops. They know lots of cops. Some of them do anyway. We've legalized being white in this country years ago, right? So they can disassociate themselves. They can talk about it around the water cooler and keep moving. We have to live in it. So you already have the everyday microaggressions and schisms that come with being one of a few or one of one in your workplace. You couple that with the anger that many of us feel, the hopelessness, the despair, the rage, the numbness, the apathy that some of us feel because being hurt takes too much out of us at this point.
Yeah.
And you still go into those white spaces and you have to pretend like you're not angry. And so then you sit back and you start to notice, you become hypersensitive to the microaggressions at your job in ways you never had before.
And I knew that you were going to go that direction with that. I knew it. Go ahead.
No, you do. You start to notice things like, dang, it's no black executives. Okay. Or dang, white people had purple and gold around, when Kobe died. And I'm just waiting to see what y'all gonna do about all this. Or your company issues one of those really good, really well-written PR statements that everybody's issuing. You say, yeah, y'all say that, but you haven't hired any black people since I got here. Or I get great evaluations and I have to constantly prove myself, or they still presume us to be incompetent.
Yeah.
Right. And so you think about those things and it's like, and it hits different now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think there's a sociologist and he writes about something called the nigger moment. And he said the nigger moment is the moment in every black person's life where they're reminded that many people think they're nothing more than a nigger. And you start to ask yourself, how many nigger moments do I have every day? You start to ask yourself, how many nigger moments went into this paycheck? You start to ask yourself, am I giving people permission to create these nigger moments in my life? You start to ask yourself some really hard questions. And I've talked with a lot of my friends, who are the only black person or one of two or one of three. And these are just things that they've shared with me, And if 3 or 4 people are telling their one friend about it, then that's just a small slice of the pie. They're probably echoing the sentiments of many black people right now. Because in order to be able to work from home, you have to be in a certain type of profession. Yeah. And by and large, most of the time, those professions are not staffed by many people of color. So I've had so many of my friends who work in white spaces. They've vented and said, this is how I feel right now. I had one friend I went to high school with. Her and her husband make amazing money, and they're definitely millionaires. They live in a very affluent suburb right outside Dallas. And she put on her Instagram, she was pulling her black kids out of that private school because she was like, they're the only black kids in their grade level. There is no black faculty, and my kids are not going to be the brown faces you put on all the promotional material to lure people in. When my girls go all day and never see anybody that looks like them until they run into each other. That's a problem for me. Yeah. And I love that because it was her taking her constituency back. Yeah. As black people, we give our constituency away.
I'm trying so hard not to with entrepreneurship, and it feels like, and here's one thing that I wanted to say earlier. I pray that we were able to band together after this, during this, and it continues on? Because, you know, so many times, and I've heard this, and I guess I'm just articulating it in my own way, but so many times stuff like this happens a lot. And by the grace of God, we've seen it firsthand. We've seen it with whoever recorded. I think it was a 17-year-old girl who recorded George Floyd in his last moments. We see it, and then we'll get together for a period of time. We'll march for a period of time, and then everybody goes back to their respective lanes. And so for me, I think that in episode 66, I said that what I wanted people to take away was that, listen, we on this team, in this war, we all have a point to play, or a position to play, rather. I just hope that we can still stand together when change comes, however it may look. When it comes, I hope that we can still band together, because it's a sad thing to only get together for a cause. And this cause right here demands us to be together. But after, when the climate cools down, when we start to see change, however it may come, I hope we can still stay together.
You know, I think this is where baby boomers need to speak up, because one of the flaws of that generation was they were incredibly united, right? For the women's movement and for the civil rights movement and so on and so forth. But it seems like once the 80s hit, you stopped seeing and hearing, you know, and some of them, you know, by the 80s, they were married and they had to move differently. Some of it was that, but some of it was, I don't know. It's like people went back to their respective places.
Yeah.
You know, like you saw, but in the 80s, you didn't see Black, white people united like this.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, you didn't see it. And people didn't really just talk about it a whole lot. You know, I don't know. I feel like once people started to gain the things they wanted from the movement, there was nothing done to ensure that human rights stayed at the forefront of the American conversation.
I agree. And I think that a lot of that was the fact of assuming that because we've come so far, that needs to go without being said. But do we have to continue to make that a point of conversation? Hey, you know what? Everything is cool right now, but make sure that you bring more Black faces around. Like, we got to have that opportunity. Or do you think that in creating it ourselves, that opportunity will show its face?
Yeah. I think that our white allies are going to have to do more than just have Black friends and marry Black people. You're going to have to do more than that. You're going to have to start giving this the same energy you guys give tsunamis and earthquakes and wildfires. Give it that same energy. Be equally as passionate with this as you are about PETA and being vegan and recycling. Be equally as passionate. The other thing I would say too is that I find it troubling that, you know, you don't really hear about protests in the 80s here in the U.S., right, in the way that you did in the 60s and the 70s. And that was also the same time, you know, crack got introduced to our communities.
Yeah.
Right. And so
you think we found a new thrill?
Listen, you know, ironically, also by the 80s, all the Black Panthers had been dismantled and disbanded. You know, there weren't any truly active chapters of the Black Panther Party, right? Because the Panthers, you know, had been infiltrated by the FBI, so they kind of disintegrated from the inside out. And so by the 80s, many of them have gone on to be professors, or they've left the United States. Some of them are living in exile in Cuba. Some of them have completely walked away from, you know, the Panther Party. And this is around the time you had the birth of gangs and crack and stuff hit our community. So my prayer, my concern is that something like Black Lives Matter, even when police, you know, units are reformed and many of them are defunded as they should be, when these things happen, we need Black Lives Matter to still be part of the conversation, to still be at the forefront, to not disintegrate like we saw the Panthers do. Because when the Panthers left communities, the very communities they left were the very communities where the Crips and Bloods started. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
You got a generation of Black kids who have no leadership. So we still need that. And so I hope it's not just temporary. That's why it needs to be a collective thing. You need Black movies and Black art to be produced like never before. You need you got to bring back Black teachers too.
Yeah. It's crazy you say that. Me and my wife, we just moved into a house, and I was talking to a colleague through text message, and she said something, and I said, listen, I ain't going nowhere. I just signed my life away for the next 30-some years. I ain't going nowhere until they fire me. And then talking to Pierre, he was just like, he didn't want to hear anything that people had to say if they're not in the community. And I feel like, I've done playing in this war and on this team. I'm doing my part, just staying in the system, because like you said in episode number 29, Black teachers are needed.
Desperately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm of the philosophy, look, even if you just do 2 and through, do 2 years and you get in and you get out and you go on to a career that makes you more money or makes you happy, Black teachers are desperately needed, because one of the disadvantages of integrating schools was that you decimated the Black teacher workforce. Because years ago, during segregation, outside of some Catholic nuns in New Orleans and some Quakers in Philadelphia, no one was educating Black children except Black children.
Yeah.
Except Black teachers. So when schools began to get integrated and Black kids are going to school with white teachers, now Black teachers had to try to get hired at those white schools. And Black teachers, by and large, are few and far between, because one of the things integration did was it took away a lot of the barriers. So I don't have to, quote unquote, settle for being an educator when I can go be a physician, a pharmacist, or whatever the case may be. And those careers have merit, but it's critical, because I talked to a lot of Black teenagers this past week, and they all said in so many words, they don't feel seen.
Yeah.
And many of them, all of them said no one asked them how do they feel as a result of the headlines. As a Black person in America, how do you feel? Nobody asked them that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, but these are the environments we're sending kids into. These Black kids desperately need Black teachers in a way they never had before.
I purposed in my mind to start asking that question, because I wanted more importantly that no matter if I'm doing the podcast or not, that I'm always current to the times. So I purposed in my mind to ask us creatives, what's going on? How do we feel? I purpose in my mind to do that regardless, because I don't think that's asked enough of people. How are you doing? Sincerely, I think it's a salutation that people use, and regardless if you get an answer or not, people move on to the next moment in the conversation. You know what I mean? So here's where I want to go with it. Today is June the 7th, 2020. We have 207 days left. As a creative, where do you begin to, as a creative who's a writer, where do you begin to tell George Floyd's story cinematically, or in a stage play, or something that people can read, and we begin to switch the narrative of how we get into the room with film producers and people with the budget to be able to produce something cinematically?
I think a conversation that a lot of people have in hushed whispers and just between the two of us and quiet as it's kept. A lot of Black women, they carry joy in their womb, but they also carry fear. and they carry trauma. And Black mothers are afraid for their children in a way that other mothers just are not. And that begins in the womb. So we need to start the conversation there. Because number one, Black women, you might die on the table, right? Because Black women die more than any other group in this country delivering birth to their children. Number one, you got to hope you don't die on the birthing table. And if you live, you have to brace yourself from the day your child goes from being cute to being a threat. And you birth this child, you watch your heart be outside of your body, only to know that somebody else is looking at your heart as target practice at the police academy. And that's a fear that Black women carry that other mothers simply do not carry. Tamir Rice was 12 years old when the police shot him. He was in the park playing with a BB gun that he got for Christmas. And I'm thinking to myself, like, all the super soakers I had growing up, my cousins had BB guns. I'm thinking about my cousins, play fighting in front of the house. And I'm just thinking of all the things you do as a kid, I'm thinking of how we used to go to it was a construction site. They were building a park. We used to play at the construction site when we were kids before they even finished the park. And I'm just thinking about this boy was in a park. He was 12. He was 12. He was an entire baby. You understand? And so you have to birth a child that may not get a chance. And some Black women are afraid to have children. And to be quite frank, some Black women are afraid to give birth to Black boys. Even the ones that are married, even the ones who have great husbands who they feel are gonna be great fathers, and they probably will be. Even the ones that are financially stable. Jordan Davis grew up in an affluent white suburb and was in a car with his friends, and they were playing their music loud, and a white man told them to turn it down. And they didn't even argue with the man. They just kept playing the music, and he shot into the car, and he died. They had a gas station. What teenagers don't play their music loud in the car? I do when I'm grown.
I do too. I'm not gonna lie.
So yeah, listen, it's a whole concert in my car. So but you think of those things, right? Jordan Davis was 16 years old. He was on the honor roll. He was a good kid. Right? And so you have to think about, like, my child really can't, like, how much of a childhood can they have? Because you from the time they're born, you have to straddle this line between letting them, do I let my child live or do I just let my child exist? You got to talk to them about having white friends and why you can't go over your white friend's house. Because if something come up missing, they're going to look at you. They can come here, but you can't go there. You got to start having those conversations at a young age. Right? So it's just, but I feel like that's where the story needs to start. Because think about all the things we heard as Black kids. Make sure you got your ID. Always get a receipt. Always ask for a bag. Don't be out there late at night. Come in when the street lights are on. Don't be up at that school arguing with them white people. Just think about all those little things that mama and granny and auntie and daddy talk. Just think about that. White kids them parents ain't having the same conversation with their kids. They not. Like, we raise our kids to not get killed. How many white people are raising their kids to not be racist?
Yeah.
So I feel like the conversation needs to start there.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
As a creative in Los Angeles during 2020, or I should say, the year of perfect vision, how would you describe the creative with one word during this time period?
Vital.
Vital.
Yes.
Vital.
Vital.
I like that word.
Yeah. I think the creative is vital.
I like that word.
Yeah.
So, are you going to protest after you've strategized this coming week?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm gonna be at the next protest. I mean, listen, it's summer. We already work from home. I ain't got nothing else to do. So, no, I'm just playing. But no, seriously, we already not getting another stimulus check. No, I'm just playing. Listen, look, they say ain't no more stimulus. They said we got to rebuild the mall and the police station and the firehouse and the grocery store and the Walgreens and ain't no more stimulus. Y'all done messed that up for everybody. Okay, ain't now.
Yeah.
So here we are.
you had to put that southern drawl on it. Ain't now.
listen. Ain't now. Ain't no more. We don't have it. I got to reach in my savings and rebuild what y'all done tore up. Ain't no more stimulus coming out.
Yeah.
So listen, no, but for real, I definitely am going to, for sure. I'm definitely going to get out there, and because I think for me, you know, I want to be able years from now when I'm a parent and my kids are asking me, I want to be able to say, this is what I did. I did donate money. You know, I was a teacher, so I didn't donate what the celebrities donated, but I did donate some money
and time.
And I definitely protested. And movements need two things. They need protesters and they need people to give.
Yeah.
You need protesters and you need patrons, or it's not going to survive. So I can look back and say I did both. And I think for me that'll give me a clear conscience, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
We talk.
Are you going to protest?
Yeah, I am. I wanted to go out. See, here's the thing. Because I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. I have my thoughts on certain situations that I keep to myself because, again, I don't want people using what I say against me in the future. So
absolutely.
So I keep everything, and again, I like to speak specifically about myself. So if you say something, I was talking about me. You know, I can't speak too intelligently about everybody else, but I was talking about me. But I wanted to go to the meeting, the march for George Floyd last week in Houston. I got caught up at work, so you know I had pressed a T-shirt with his picture on it, and I wanted to put on the back "Justice for Floyd," and I was gonna go with my mother-in-law, but I got caught up closing at work, so I didn't go. But the next one, whatever happens next, I just got to be careful because amidst the marching and this tragic time we're in, we're still supposed to be quarantined. And I went to my nephew's game a couple of days ago, right? And he plays baseball. I went to the 12U game. I had a mask on. Nobody around had masks on. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't people have masks on even knowing that, we still amongst what's going on with this racial war, we still have to be careful because of COVID-19. And so that's my only concern with marching. Like, you know, at the end of the day, when I get ready to come home, I want to be safe. I want to be secure. And I don't want to have to worry about a disease that nobody can control and has any idea of how to fix and resolve.
I think that's really true because there have been a lot of protesters who are out there with no mask on.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
And we got to be mindful because Black people, we're dying from the coronavirus at a rate other communities are not. And many of us live in communities that have been medically redlined, which means we don't have access to, or we have limited access or subpar access to medical care.
Yeah.
You know, so we got to be real careful because, listen, they made sure our communities don't have access to good medical care.
Yeah.
So just protest, but wear your mask.
Yeah. I want to say this platform does not support Donald Trump. I want to say that I'm a podcaster, so I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I got this list off this podcast. Let me know which one of these that you're willing to dismiss forever. Businesses in support of Trump's reelection: McDonald's, Pizza Hut, CVS, Snapchat, Taco Bell, Home Depot, KFC, Chick-fil-A, that one hurt, IHOP, Wendy's, Marvel, the comic book, Papa John's, New Balance, Hobby Lobby, Ford, Dior, Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs, and there's another one on here. I spelled it wrong, so I can't pronounce it. How many? You talking about the black dollar? How many people do you think are going to take their money away from that? Because we should start there.
I feel like I don't have none of those things, to be very honest, because Home Depot doesn't sell anything you can't find at Lowe's. KFC, it's too many mom and pop places that fry chicken and you can get a whole basket for $5. So I'm not pressed to have y'all. Chick-fil-A, y'all want to pretend, but y'all are not the Lord's chicken. You know, Jesus is not frying y'all chicken, so I don't have to have Chick-fil-A. Ford, I mean, everybody's making those big trucks, so there's nothing special about what y'all do. And I'm sorry, not sorry. When Dodge came out with that Challenger, like, who wants Mustang anymore? I don't. Let's call it. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think. Who else did you say is out there?
McDonald's, Pizza Hut, CVS.
McDonald's don't even use real food, so that's who else?
Pizza Hut, CVS.
Pizza Hut is glorified cardboard. CVS, you don't sell anything we can't get at Walgreens or Rite Aid, so we're not pressed to have you. And then as far as in the South go, Walmart has the lowest pharmacy prices anyway. So I'm not pressed for CVS.
So you good? You good?
Yeah. Who else is on that list?
Man, there's a lot of people on this list. New Balance, the sneaker, Hobby Lobby. I don't know if that's in Cali. There's a Hobby Lobby go out here. Black
people don't do enough arts and crafts to really be affected by that. We can order all that off Amazon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you now New Balance. Now that put a pause in my spirit. Listen, can I get one more pair of New Balances? I just need one pair. Real talk. What is it? Is it the 474 or the 574? They got one cut that's like extra comfortable. But you know what? Real talk. Reeboks are equally as comfortable as New Balances, so we don't have New Balance. We can cancel y'all.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because Reebok is always the backup anyway. And Reebok be on the 2 for $89 special for back to school and y'all don't. Yeah. So we don't have to have New Balance.
Yeah, I was on that in college and people clown me. I was on Reebok in college and they feel like you're walking on air.
Reebok's like you said, it's like walking on a cloud all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so speaking of president states.
When the looting starts, the shooting starts. What'd you feel about that? God.
And that's why he's in a bunker under the White House now.
Yeah.
And that's why he lives at 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza. So, I mean,
yeah,
it is what it is. This is what I'll say too, though, about all that right there. Joe Biden is going to speak with the family of George Floyd. And okay, Joe Biden, but how many of these other Black families did you go out and speak to?
Yeah, it seems so situational.
It's so situational. It's so performative. And this is the man who just last week told us that if we didn't vote for him, we wasn't Black. So, listen, Joe Biden, you're Black America's side piece. And so you've got to stay in your lane. You are not the Air Jordans that we stood in line for because we had to have the retros. No, sir, that's not you. You're the 2 for $89 special that nobody's in a rush to get because we know it's always going to be there. You are our last resort that our mama said because she wasn't going to pay for the Jordans. She was only going to pay for this. You're our last resort. And since the Democratic Party didn't get behind Bernie Sanders the way they should have, listen, you're our last resort. And I need you just to humble yourself a little bit. And remember,
we didn't put you on a Democratic ticket twice. So we've already told you in a roundabout way, we really don't rock with you like that. But you're our best hope right now.
Yeah.
You know,
the lesser of two evils.
Absolutely. You know, because you and Donald Trump are two sides of the same white male patriarchy rapist coin. So please don't sit here and make yourself a martyr.
Yeah.
I don't care how many selfies you take with Sasha and Malia and Michelle Obama. We'll never forget how you let Anita Hill get publicly lynched. Newsflash, Anita Hill and Michelle Obama are the same type of black.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And we see you.
For sure.
We see you. It is what it is. But, Joe Biden, hey.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now you cool, like, he your uncle, white friend from college that y'all really don't want to see at the cookout, but your big mama make him a plate just to save face and keep the peace, and she hope he don't stay that long. And we don't eat nothing he bring to the cookout. That's who he is. So,
oh my God. Most importantly, the last question I ask is, what's next for you?
I'm working on my second short film.
Okay.
I'm writing that as we speak. So
Okay.
I'm working on that. I finished writing a feature length film. This is June. I finished that May 1st.
Okay.
So that was done. I'm working on a short right now, and I am using this excess of time I have to get to finish polishing some scripts, cleaning some scripts, and get them ready, because when the industry does open back up, it's going to be the perfect time for new black talent, new black voices to walk through.
I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about it. I just felt like, I needed your insight as to what's going on in society right now. As a creative, how you're dealing with it. I needed your insight, so I can't wait to talk about those scripts.
I'm telling you. Well, listen, I appreciate you even creating a space to have the conversation.
Yeah. Houston,
What's
Texas.
next for you as a creative?
You know what? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Like I said, I wrote a script a couple of years ago in Louisville. What was going on? I think Mike Brown was going on at the time, and I can't remember who else. A couple of years after, I wrote a poem that I was detailing stories about Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, and I think two other patrons that we lost. I'm thinking of how to creatively write, and that's why I asked you that question of where do you start telling a story concerning George Floyd. I'm thinking about how to write in that lane. So last episode, I was talking to a guy who knew him, and I'm trying to find more people to paint his story, because Wikipedia, they already put a profile up about him. They spoke about some things, and I've been listening to the news and just trying to get a feel as to, because it can't be done. I don't know if I'm the right person to do it. I can only write from my perspective, but I want to, if I'm talking about him or referring him, I want to do it in a light that people will understand, people will receive well, and it doesn't do him injustice. So just writing something like a short film concerning that, or something I can act in and bring another actor from Houston in, and, showcase here on the podcast and talk to that actor on the podcast about, what the challenges were about the role, and just go about like that. So, just finding the right people to detail stories and his history, so that way I can correctly depict it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it for me, man. And summer school, and
I think that's beautiful.
Plethora of other things.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that script, though. I'm gonna be honest, I can't.
Yeah, well, it's a short, and it's gonna be. I've done a short before. It was like 9 pages, and this one's gonna be half that amount, because it has to be a 5-minute short film.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I loved your picture on your Instagram, and in Houston, Texas, when she says that she's not active on Instagram, that's what she means. I love your picture on Instagram where remember last year you were telling me about how you got cast in a production, and so now you're doing more than just writing, you're acting now, and you're trying to see how the camera works. So you're doing a plethora of things to diversify your portfolio. But I saw your picture on IG, and I was like, look at Kalaiah. Go on, girl.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No doubt.
I
No doubt.
appreciate it.
No
I
doubt.
appreciate every bit of the journey.
No doubt. No doubt. We're gonna talk, man. We got
Absolutely.
when Pierre and I get back on and talk about it some more. Be expecting my phone call.
For sure. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Houston, Texas. Kalaiah, say bye.
Bye, y'all.
Houston, Texas. I do what I do for myself to prove that I can do it for others. Peace and blessings.
Yo, it feel like 95. Sachi on my body. Biggie, jigger, puffy. All that ballin' is a hobby. And I'm wildin' in my wallies. And them valleys, no Pilates. More weight, get you more wet. Nah, that's the Spumante. My crystal ball, I see crystal. I crystal y'all with that. I saw the sign like ace space. That ace is the Willie niggas who buy them bottles and then they spill these liquors. Yo, salute my dude. I see you, dog. I know I'm out of line, but love is shower time. You know it rotates when your cloud is 9. Get off that high ass hustle. This a private party. Then know my get too long. Your breath on private party. You gon' be nice and naughty. These walls on priceless Audi. This the upper crust. Fuck is up. Life is short. Over and done. Overdose.